People rolling in, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. We're really excited to talk about consumer financing with our partner Sunbit and how it can really help pool pros win more jobs, improve the pool owner experience, and really help improve cash flow. Along the way, feel free to ask questions in the chat. Our team will answer them along the way, and we'll have time for Q&A at the end as well. I'm Joe Shiraz. I'm Director of Product Marketing here at Skimmer. And while relatively new to Skimmer, I have a long history in home service and home service tech, working with maid services, lawn care, pest control, and even pool companies for a bit. Also today with us, we have Steph from Sunbit.
Hi guys, I'm Stephanie from Sunbit. I've been with Sunbit for just about a year now, but my background is in customer success and account management. So I'm happy to be here today and tell you all things about consumer financing.
Great. Pay over time, a specific type of consumer financing, really is everywhere. While it started as like an e-commerce option and now touches all parts of our lives, from the ability to spread out payments over something as small as a DoorDash order to even like the dentist or med spa and buying luxury watches. This is a payment option people are coming to expect, and it really becomes is becoming a standard both in the services space and specifically home services. And the broader trends show us why. Almost half of consumers are making 100K are using consumer financing. Almost a third of homeowners admit to using a lower quality service due to costs. And 40% of consumers can't afford an unexpected expense over $400. And I think even more surprising, most Americans who make 250K a year are living paycheck to paycheck. These people are making good livings. They're pool owners. But giving them more breathing room is something that they really need, particularly for these unexpected costs and expenses. Combined with the fact that 66% of pool owners skip or delay a recommended pool service based on the recent Skimmer pool owner survey. And 38% of pool owners say that cost is a top frustration. Your customers not only want consumer financing, they really need consumer financing. And while may not be the best solution for cleanings, consumer financing isn't just for pool pumps and repairs and remodels. This can also be for things like pool openings or filter cleans as well. And pool pros really need consumer financing. Um, you know, consumer financing gives pool owners the ability to get paid instantly. While your customers are enjoying paying over time, you get paid for the entire job up front. No need to like float parts or supplies or worry about chasing down payments. You can eliminate objections and close jobs faster. If a customer can't afford a repair, then a lot of times you're the one that ends up paying for it. Higher chem costs, faster fill degradation, leaks. This alleviates those objections and help you close those jobs faster. It also helps you offer larger jobs and upsell with confidence. And finally, differentiate your competition. While your competitors are demanding payments up front, offer flexible payment options with 0% interest. And the customers want your services. The ability for pool pros to offer the time to pay over time prevents a lot of the objection pool owners have seen, price shopping, trying to buy parts on Amazon, descoping the job by like, to help remove costs, or really kind of beating you up a price or trying to negotiate on the price. And I know this kind of firsthand. Don't hate me, but I kind of tried to do a lot of these. Recently, my pool pump started acting up. We replaced the capacitor twice and trying to avoid kind of replacing the entire pump. It was obvious that I needed to replace the pump, but I had an older system, so my automation system needed to be replaced. And with a variable speed pump, I needed to have a new kind of chlorinator as well. So this is a pretty large cost. I was getting quotes in like the 6 to 9K range. And just a few months prior, I had to replace my HVAC system. So I did all the annoying behaviors pool pros hate. I was like Googling online for like pool pump costs. I was getting quotes. I was kind of trying to negotiate the price. But if I had the option to pay for the job over 3 to 4 payments with 0% interest, it would have been a much easier yes. I wouldn't have gone to trigger to like this mode that homeowners go into of like, hey, how do I save money? How do I afford this? The psychology of being able to pay just over 3 payments, like of 2K each over like 6K is huge. And the cost to the pool pro was significantly less for paying for consumer financing versus the discount and kind of headaches that I put them through. And so why Sunbit as a customer? So Skimmer being the first pool service software platform to actually offer consumer financing, we really wanted to find the right partner. And before I hand it over to Sunbit, I really want to touch on why we chose them as this partner. We looked at a lot of different financing opportunities or options, and we felt like Sunbit was the best choice because specific for pool pros, they were dedicated. They have support 7 days a week. They really are concerned with enabling and giving all the tools to make this successful. And for pool owners, they really care about y'all's customers as well. They're not aggressive with collections. They have hardship programs, and they really care about the overall experience for the pool owner. And with that, Steph, I'll kind of hand it over to you to talk a little bit more about Sunbit.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. And definitely appreciate everything that you guys have done for the partnership so far, and very excited to share with you guys a little bit more about Sunbit and how this could be very beneficial for you and your business. So, to give you guys just a bit of background on Sunbit in general, we are one of the leading consumer financing partners. We service over 35,000 locations now, and we are industry leading in approvals. So our approvals are oftentimes 90% or higher. And I would say one of our biggest, call outs and very exciting things, to benefit yourself and your customers is that we have an NPS rating of 84. If you guys are familiar with NPS ratings, typically in the finance world, that can be anywhere like around the 20s to 30s range. So being in an 84 is considered to be best in class. So we're really here not only to support you and your business, but to support your customers as well and make sure it's a smooth process for everyone on both ends. We've also been awarded, several times down here below, so you can see that as well. So definitely a trusted partner to have for consumer financing. And then just to give you guys some stats as well on how Sunbit can help Skimmer pool pros. We, in general, have seen a 25% increase in more jobs closed, and that's really across all verticals. Typically, we see a 2 to 3 times increase in lift of general job size and almost a 15% increase in overall revenue. So this is just by having this, additional option for you guys to feel like you can service your customers better and make sure they have options. Especially in today's economy, people are, trying to cut corners wherever they can. So giving them this option to be able to pay over time is huge. And to give you guys just a general background on traditional financing versus Sunbit, I'm sure you've seen, like Joe kind of mentioned in the beginning, there's a lot of different kinds of e-com financing out there. I'm sure you've heard of some other ones that offer for, things that you can purchase online. And then there's traditional financing where it might be really long application processes where you have to sit there and fill out an application for 20 minutes and there's going to be a hard credit check, all of those things that kind of can deter a customer away from wanting to go the financing route. Another huge kind of differentiator between Sunbit and traditional financing options is our approval ratings. So this kind of shows you typically in the traditional financing and e-com worlds, a lot of these providers are really catering to those individuals that are in the prime category of the credit spectrum. So up top there, you'll see that credit spectrum in subprime and prime. A lot of individuals, really most of America, is living in that subprime section there. So really like a huge differentiator with Sunbit is that we're approving 9 out of 10 customers. So that gives you as, the pool pro and for your customers, the confidence in, being able to offer this solution, knowing that 9 out of 10 times your customer is going to get approved. You don't have to have any awkward conversations. You can just let them know that they can use this option to pay over time today. And just to give you a bit more background on Sunbit and kind of, again, some more details on traditional financing versus kind of what we offer with Sunbit. In terms of traditional financing, oftentimes the approval rates are very low, often around 40%. Applications, again, can take 15 to 30 minutes to fill out. Sometimes they're not even digital, so you're going to have to fill out that paperwork. There's a lot of times gotcha fees or hidden fees if you don't pay on time, or if you end up, your interest might go up over time, and there can be a lot of hidden kind of fees with that, and it can be misleading for customers. A lot of times, too, there's going to be a hard credit check involved, and then they might not even have a support team, so you're stuck either on a chat with a robot or, overseas customer support times can be super long and you never get in touch with a person to help you. There's oftentimes a lot of requirements in terms of the merchant side of things. So, having to have a super high, repair rate for them to be able to start using financing. And then when we go into Sunbit and kind of like our differentiators, again, that 90% customer approval rate, oftentimes higher than that. So making sure almost all of your customers are going to get approved when they go through this process. The application itself is very seamless. It's all digital and it only takes them a few seconds to complete. We don't have any sort of fees, any late fees. There's no surprise fees. And that's one thing we really pride ourselves on. We have a customer support team that's also available 7 days a week. We have hardship program. So if your customer, for example, got through half their loan and needed to push back their dates, they can contact our support team and get that easily switched. And we're never going to charge them a late fee. It's also just a soft credit check when you go through the actual process. So there is no ding on your record for a hard credit check there. It's only a soft credit check. And then in general, the terms that we have with Skimmer that are set up, the minimum purchase for our loans is $60, and then they go all the way up to $20,000. There's also no risk there in terms of recourse. So if, for example, this is rare, but if for some reason the customer didn't end up paying their full loan, you still get paid as the pool pro. That payment goes through the next business day, and the risk is on Sunbit there. So once that transaction is complete, there's really nothing that you need to worry about on your end in terms of that. Like Sunbit takes care of the rest. So you can feel, confident offering this, and then everything else is really on Sunbit's end from there.
And Steph, that's kind of why we picked Sunbit. I love the flexibility you offer both the pool pros and the pool owners.
Yeah, exactly. And then just to give you guys, again, just kind of a review here on some of the things I already mentioned, the very high approval rate, the application itself just takes a few seconds. The approvals go all the way up to $20,000. There is a flat fee. So if you guys might be familiar with other financing options, typically that fee may increase if the person is in like the low credit score spectrum, things like that. Ours is completely flat. So it is a 5.5% fee per transaction. The way that that works is that gets taken out once the payment is initiated that next business day. You will get that full amount regardless of what plan the customer chose, which I'll go get into in a second too, just to show you guys the plans that we do offer. Regardless of whatever plan the customer chooses, you'll still get initiated for that full payment that next business day, and then really like the rest is on Sunbit there. And then we do have 0% interest plans for every single customer that applies and goes through the process. So every single person, even if they do fall into the subprime category, will still get a 0% interest option for 3 months. And then they will see the rest of their options when they go through the process in terms of APR percentages and things like that. So that really just will vary based on the customer credit.
And,
And
and,
then,
and
oh, go
just
ahead.
real quick on the 5.5%, because there's some questions coming through chat. That's
Sure.
really almost like 2.5%. These large purchases, if they can't afford it to even put it on a credit card, right? You'd have to pay 3% with a credit card. The 5.5% is only an initial 2.5% to offer that flexibility, to offer that differentiation, to really help your pool owners feel confident in taking the entire purchase and really doing the right thing for their pool.
Yes, exactly. And the way we like to think about it too is maybe that person would have walked away or gone with another service, or just not done the services at this time. Like I mentioned, it is definitely a hard time in general for most Americans right now. So they might just, put it off. But if they found out that they did have a way to pay over time and finance the solution, especially using the 0% APR for 3 months, they might say yes to more repairs and larger, pool updates than they maybe would have done otherwise. Now we'll kind of walk into the integration a little bit more and how to share Sunbit. So when we think about offering this solution, we really like to keep it simple with a talk track of, your repair is going to cost X, but you don't have to pay for everything today. Can I show you? And then you can kind of go into the process and share the Sunbit kind of process with them as well. But really keeping it simple with how you're offering this, not every single person needs to use financing, but I think it's good to kind of mention this. When we go to the end of this slide deck, we also have some marketing assets that you can utilize if you wanted to download and add those to your website, or if you do have any sort of like in-store shop that you're using, you can print those out as well. So I would just, let people know that you do have this option now where you don't have to pay for everything today and keep it very simple. In terms of what this looks like in Skimmer, so this is a screenshot here of the Skimmer dashboard. And really all you need to do to turn this integration on is to toggle on accept consumer financing in your payment section. So it's truly that simple. Once you have that enabled, this is all good to go. And I will reference this at the end just to make sure you guys are aware too, but it's simple as turning a toggle on to get going. And one thing I maybe didn't mention before is that when you do toggle this on and to have Sunbit on, there isn't really any negative in just trying this out and turning it on because we don't charge an integration fee. So the only time any processing fee would go through is when you actually have a transaction. So even if you just keep this on and, for example, didn't have a Sunbit transaction, like no harm, no foul, you can keep this on as a setting and just have an additional payment method for your customer to choose when they're going to check out with you. And then once you have that toggled on, this is all good to go, and you can tell your customers about Sunbit when sharing quotes or invoices. One thing to note here is that Sunbit is only available for invoices created from a quote. So you are going to want to create a quote if you want to utilize Sunbit. So that's kind of our suggestion there in terms of workflow. And then once you do that, from a quote, you'll be able to see that pay over time. It's a little blurry on this slide, so apologies for that. But the customer will be able to click on that through the quote there and go through the process of pre-qualifying. Customers will see a module at the bottom of their quote there and be able to click through that, like I just mentioned, on the quote approval screen. Once the customer goes through that process, they can go fully check out. But just to give you guys a little bit of background on pre-qualification, so this is something that it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to an invoice. This is a link actually that we will share with you at the end of this webinar and give you in our marketing resources as well. But customers can use that, say, they haven't even come in yet, or you maybe want to send them like a reminder and let them know you're offering Sunbit. You can send them the pre-qualification link and they'll be able to just simply check their options that way as well, to see how much they qualify for. So even before coming in or for you to go in for their repair on their pool, they'll be able to see how much they pre-qualify ahead of time, which is really nice as well. And then on your end, on the merchant side, on the Pool Pro side, once a customer does go through that process, say you sent out the quote, they went through the pre-qualification link in the quote. On your end, once that's refreshed, you'll be able to see that they approved and how much they approved for in there. So at the top left of this screen, you can see the green approved there in the top corner. And then you'll see under the customer name how much they are approved for there as well. And then this is just the actual checkout process. So once the customer gets to the screen where they see the different payment method options, Sunbit will be listed there as a payment method. So the customer can select Sunbit as a payment option at checkout, and they'll be able to clearly see the difference there on the pay over time. Once they click that and they go to pay, they will then walk through the process, which I have a quick video in here that I'll show you guys as well, so you can just see the entire customer journey of what that looks like. In terms of reporting on the Skimmer side, you will be able to see who paid with Sunbit in your reporting as well. So, in terms of the transactions there, you'll see, if someone paid with Sunbit versus if someone paid for with a card or a check or whatever it is, you'll be able to clearly see the payment method there with Sunbit. And then in terms of the customer process, so now kind of walking through what the customer goes through on their end, essentially they'll get that quote. They are ready to check out, let's say, and have gone through the pre-approval process already. They also don't have to go through the pre-approval process to just check out. They will get a link to their phone, and essentially everything is done through their phone in just a few simple steps. So they go through the application process and then they're able to choose a payment plan directly from their device. Once they go through the process and check out, they receive the confirmation email, and then you'll also receive the confirmation on your end as well. The customer gets a detailed confirmation email with like their payout, their loan dates, all of that. So it's very clearly stated in there, a breakdown of all of their payments and when everything is due. They'll also get our partner support phone number and such on there as well. So everything is very clear and transparent. And then to show you just an example of kind of just what this process looks like end to end from the customer perspective, this is just a quick video here. So this just shows you once that link is sent, kind of what it looks like for the customer. This shows an invoice amount already, so they know they owe $1,000. It oftentimes just has you do a quick verification, whether that's phone or email, just like most things, even your email usually has you to do a two-step verification these days. You'll go through that process, get a couple confirmations for that. And then once you go through that process, it will show you your different options that you have. One thing to caveat here is that you do have to have a bank issued debit card to check out with Sunbit. So once you pick your plan, you'll enter in your bank issued debit card details there. Once you go through that process and agree and continue, you can then update to like ACH if you wanted to, or change that around. The reason why we have you do a bank issued debit card is because we don't want to have customers doing credit on credit. Once you go through that process, you'll get a confirmation email, like I mentioned. So the customer will see all of their transaction information when things are due. That'll clearly be stated there, along with, like I said, our support information for the customer to have on hand as well. And then something that we kind of like to mention as well is to, once you guys start using Sunbit and have that enabled, once that's ready and enabled in your settings in Skimmer, you are truly good to go. There is nothing else you need to do on your end, and you could start offering this today if you wanted to. In fact, we encourage you to toggle that on right after this webinar if you can. And even if you just started offering this to 2 people per day, what that kind of looks like in terms of a monthly perspective, just to give you an idea, that's 40 applications per month. That's 36 approved people per month with that average rate of 90% approval rates. And that's 22 more services accepted per month with Sunbit, which is a 60% conversion rate, which is incredible. And that's just, if you start offering it with 2 people a day. I know you're kind of in probably a slower season right now, so this might even be good to offer to people that might have like bigger jobs that they've been holding off on, and especially going into spring and summer when it starts to pick up. This could, be really beneficial for you and your business. And to give you guys just a case study that we did with one of our other merchants, they had a 3 times higher conversion average repair order with Sunbit. And just to read this quote to you guys, Sunbit has by far the highest approvals, and they're an honest company that truly takes care of my customers. Our average job has tripled, service acceptance is up 35%, and customers appreciate that there are no late fees or hidden penalties. And I think that's just, a really good call out there of just that increase in acceptance. And again, to hit on the no late fees or hidden penalties, that's again probably one of our biggest differentiators as well in terms of other financing options out there. And then to wrap things up, We do, like I mentioned, have our partner support team that's here for you and your customers. They're available 7 days a week through phone, email. There's also chat available. So, really, like any way that you want to get in touch. I'm also available as well to connect if you did want some additional trainings. And we have our marketing resource hub for you guys that we built out specifically for Skimmer and Pool Pros, where you can download assets if you want to add those to your website, if you want to add them to social media, or add them to your emails or appointment reminders if you have anything like that that you want to send out. And then we do have a dedicated Skimmer support email address too, if anything comes up for you. Um, but yeah, that pretty much covers it on my end. And Joe, is there anything else on your end?
No, just if you're not on Skimmer now, use the QR to sign up. You get a 30-day free trial. This is one of the many of the great features, both from a payment standpoint and just a general uh, pool service platform standpoint that you really help with pool pros. And if you're existing Skimmer customer and you want to turn on consumer financing, scan the QR code. It takes you directly to payments. One click, you turn it on. I saw some questions. There's no monthly fee, no application. It's instantly turned on as long as you've been on the platform longer than 2 months and you're a current Skimmer payments customer. Well, Steph, thanks for all the great information. We've had a bunch of questions roll in, so we have some additional time. We can take the next 10 to 15 minutes to answer a few questions. So the first one was about the fee. So the fee is 5.5%. And if you think about that, that's just an additional percentage over what a credit card processing fee would be. That fee comes out of the payment that happens within 1 to 2 days, but depending on your bank, following the deposit. So that fee is withdrawn from the transaction. That 5.5%. You can't charge the customer an additional 5%. There's no like surcharging for consumer financing. That being said, I think you can price with confidence with consumer financing. If you have this large job or if you're pricing something out, knowing that you have this as an option gives you confidence to not be apprehensive about what to price it for and things like that. So instead of using it as like, how can I charge a little extra? Know that you can price with more confidence. You're offering a premium service in the marketplace.
Yeah. And on that, I would just say like this again doesn't have to be for every single customer that you're that you're working with. You know, we know people are going to choose credit card when they can, but this is we like to kind of think of it as a way that this is maybe someone who would have turned down the job or maybe not done the extra added things that they need to on their pool that you would have maybe otherwise not had this transaction come in at all. So this is, you know, just an additional option for you to have in your back pocket to be able to offer to customers who maybe otherwise would have said no or done, you know, less of what they needed to get fixed because they feel a little bit strapped right now, and then offering them this solution, you know, where they can finance and pay over time.
Steph, a few questions coming in was about interest rates. So you have the 0% option, which is awesome, right? And I want to add that's built in, right? A lot of
Mhm.
other consumer financing platforms charge an additional fee to you to have that offering. This is built into the Sunbit. But for customers that aren't leveraging, for pool owners that aren't leveraging the 0%, what's the kind of average interest rates they might be seeing?
Yeah, they're pretty on par, I would say, with average interest rates that, you know, can be like around normally what we see for credit cards or other financing options. And it's really dependent on a number of factors, including the customer's credit. It's not all the same for each individual. So it's going to be different for everyone coming in. I believe we are going to send out kind of like a follow-up after this as well, so we can put a bit more detail in there for you guys to have also.
Yeah, and I see some additional questions asking about the surcharging, and it is different than credit cards. So credit cards is a different offering than consumer financing. So that's kind of why the legality of being able to surcharge inherently. But again, I think I want to come back to the being able to price with confidence, being able to battle against the price negotiations that consumer financing really helps offer. Another question, which is about another new feature that Skimmer offers, is our instant payouts. So instant payouts allows you to get your money faster within the Skimmer platform. And yes, consumer financing, you can use instant payouts with consumer financing with instant payouts. Let me see. The payment amount, so the financing amount. So right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Steph. Sunbit offers $60 from the low point up to $20,000 for financing. Someone asked about how small. I think $60 is a pretty good floor. As far as the
Mhm.
20K, someone asked about like 50K and larger amounts. And y'all don't go that high. And I think that's because like there's different financing mechanisms for amounts that high, correct, Steph? Like the larger amounts are usually more equipped for different types of financing. Is that correct?
Yeah, and right now that's where we're at, is the minimum 60, which typically we don't see transactions that small, but all the way up to $20,000. And that's not to say that that might change in the future. Right now, that is the maximum that we can do, but it could be something that fluctuates to a higher amount in the future.
Great. Some other questions I see coming in is like, what does this cover? Like, does it cover labor? Does it cover parts? Right. And really, it's anything that's quoted out, and invoiced through a quote is covered. That's labor, parts, anything that's invoiced out is covered with consumer financing. And the reason we put it through quotes is because that helps y'all select who gets consumer financing or not on the type of jobs. So we didn't want to do on recurring services. You may not want to offer it on everything that you offer, the types of offerings that you have, but you can use a quote to say, hey, these are the types of things that we want to offer consumer financing on. Great. And let me see.
I think there was one on if the customer does not pay the loan,
Yeah.
how that will affect you. Yeah. So it truly is non-recourse, which sounds probably shocking to some of you, but that risk really is all on Sunbit. So once the customer goes through the transaction, say they paid no payments or they paid half their payments, regardless, that risk is on Sunbit and you do get paid the full amount minus the 5.5% processing fee. So that's another, thing to think about too when offering these large jobs is that no matter what, really, like that money, once the transaction goes through, is going into your pocket minus that processing fee. And
Yeah.
you don't, you don't have to worry about anything where that risk is on Sunbit there.
And no additional fee. So I think someone asked about the 5.5, then an ACH fee. Just to be very clear, it's 5.5%. There's no additional fees to the pool pro on top of that.
Mhm.
Let's see, what other questions do we have here? And I saw some people raising their hands. Go ahead and put it in the chat if that's okay. We're trying to just get all the questions through chat. Um, so there's a question about offering different pricing, and I don't know, Steph, if you want to take that on the kind of regulations legality of offering specialized pricing if you offer consumer finance. I think the answer is no on that one, right?
Right. Yeah.
But again, I think the term I like to use is price with confidence. Once you have consumer financing in your tool belt and you're equipped with that, go into these jobs, go into these conversations with your customers, knowing that's a tool and that you're offering again a premium offering a premium service.
Yep. Exactly.
And there's some questions of like, can you use it elsewhere? Um, you know, I think the beauty of working with Sunbet, the beauty of consumer financing in the Skimmer platform is the seamless integration. So if you're using QuickBooks for billing, if you're using QuickBooks for payments, this unfortunately is not an offering through that. But having that in Skimmer, you can see who's pre-approved in your customer list. It's in the quote, it's in the invoice. So it really is an offering just for Skimmer payments for a multitude of reasons. But this is a reason to have that conversation. Reach out to our team. We'd love to chat with you about how payments is a better offering than QuickBooks. And again, this is one of many offerings that we're doing to enhance the Skimmer platform when it comes to invoicing and payments for pool owners. Great. So some more questions rolling in about the deposit. So there's a couple of different ways to handle the deposit. So if you have an invoice that already has a deposit on there, it's really up to the pool pro. You can remove the deposit. They can pay the entire thing with consumer financing, or they can actually use the same consumer financing approval rate to pay the deposit, then pay the entire amount. So it's kind of really up to you how you want to handle that. We didn't want to inherently remove deposits from invoices for consumer financing just in case some pool owners wanted to like have that split up using consumer financing. So it's really an option for their pool pro. Cool. I'm just looking through the chat to see if there's any of things other. I think some more questions about the 20K be raised. Um, I don't think this is the financing tool for pool builds for those really large jobs, right? I think more term financing, specific financing like that is going to be better for those types of jobs. Consumer financing really is kind of the lower end of the market, an option that wasn't served previously, like lots of loans for construction loans and things like that that are in the market. Consumer financing, specifically Sunbit, in the way they're approaching the market, is unique for these like smaller transactions, the 6K equipment replacement, the 10K job that is hard to get traditional consumer financing on. This is an easier process, quicker than those much larger amounts. Um, a question about when you get paid upon the approval of the quote and the job is really when they pay the invoice. Consumer finance is almost like a payment method. Like they can get pre-approved seamlessly within the application, but once that invoice is sent out, um, once they pay with consumer financing, that's considered completed and you get paid within that 1 to 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. So the payment, once they actually go through the transaction and pay the invoice, the payment initiates the next business day and typically takes 1 to 2 business days. I mean, max, we've seen, 3, 4 business days to fully process, but it's really dependent on your bank. So it's always initiated, though, the next business day after the transaction goes through.
Cool. I feel like looking through the questions, I feel like most of the questions have been answered. Feel free to pop any more in there. It seems like some additional questions on credit interest rates by credit level. Steph, did you have a slide on that you could share? Maybe just pull that slide up again.
Um, I think they're just the one on the credit profiles. Let me just pull it up.
And I
This,
think that's because it varies greatly, right? Someone with a 650 with all the different factors, right, may have a different interest rate compared to someone else with that 650 rating. It's not strictly on credit rating. Is that correct?
yeah, exactly. So it's a number of factors that go into it. For one, every single individual will have the 0% 3 month APR option. So there's going to be a 0% interest option for every single customer, regardless of where they fall on this scale. But one thing to note and just to think about when, like, in terms of different financing options, a lot of times they won't get approved for anything if they're in subprime credit or like, maybe 40, 50% approval ratings, whereas we're going to approve those people who are around 500 and higher. So even if the customer does have a lower subprime credit, like in the 500s, for example, they're still going to get approved for something, but their APR percentage, might differ a little bit between someone who has like an 800 credit score. So that's, going to be the factors that determine what their APRs are for the 6 month options and above, and that's just going to vary. But we are going to send a follow-up email from this webinar with this recording in it for you guys as well, and we can add some additional details in there. And again, we do have a booking link for Sunbit too. If you guys did want to just get into more questions on a deeper level, we're happy to go into that with you there as well.
Great. Yeah. And I think, there's going to be a lot of questions answered in that content. And just to answer a few more, particularly around the down payment question. So there's a couple of different paths. One is you can remove the down payment or the deposit from the invoice and have them pay the full invoice up front. Or with that deposit, they can pay the deposit using consumer financing with the pre-approved with a very easy transaction and then pay the invoice as well. Again, depending on what the pool pro wants to do. We've talked to some that still wanted to have that deposit. Same thing with requiring a credit card on file. You can have it on there, you can remove it. Consumer financing, you can have it both ways because we wanted to keep that flexibility for the pool pros. So I think we're just about time. We'll look through the chat, make sure all these questions are addressed either in the deck or feel free to reach out to support either at Skimmer or at Sunbit. But we're really excited about the dialogue and the excitement of consumer financing. And again, reach out if you're not a Skimmer customer. Reach out if you have questions about activating it. It's super simple. One click, turn it on, and it's a really powerful option to offer your the pool owners out there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. And yeah, like he mentioned, it is just that toggle in your settings and the payment methods to turn on Sunbit. So definitely encourage you all to turn it on and try it. And yeah, excited to be working with Skimmer.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and we appreciate everyone attending.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.